Om Shivaya, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. It is in two parts. Our first part is coping with negative events, which is a publisher's desk, and the current issue, meaning the April, May, June 2019 issue of Hinduism Today. And its subtitle is Reflecting on How Bad Things Can Happen to Good People and Offering Insights on Dealing Positively with Life's Difficulties. Oh, here we go. I have met a number of Hindus who have not been able to accept recent negative life events as something that should have happened. They lament, our family has been living a virtuous and dutiful life, and that fact should keep all negative happenings away from us. This is something that should not have happened to us. In extreme cases, their faith had been shaken by their inability to answer the question, how could God allow this to happen to us? The answer I give explains their dilemma in terms of a key Hindu concept, and I'm sure most of you have already figured out what that is, which is karma. Defined as follows in our online lexicon. Karma, action, deed. One of the most important principles in Hindu thought. Karma refers to 1. Any act or deed. 2. The principle of cause and effect. 3. A consequence or fruit of action, karma pala, or after effect, uttara pala, which sooner or later returns upon the doer. So you can see the word karma has three different meanings. And it's important when it's used by me in this presentation or by you in your presentations and thinking to properly indicate which one it is. For example, if you say karma yoga, that's the yoga of action. That's pretty clear. But if you say karma just by itself, someone doesn't know if it's the law of karma or the karma pala, the fruit of action. So in this talk, you'll see a lot of time karma pala used, or fruit of action, to make sure the reader knows it's the reaction to your action. It's not just the law of karma. And explained a little further, what we sow, we shall reap in this or future lives. Selfish, hateful acts, papa karma or kukarma, will bring suffering. Benevolent actions, punya karma or sukarma, will bring loving reactions. Karma is a neutral, self-perpetuating law of the inner cosmos, much as gravity is an impersonal law of the outer cosmos. Some religions teach that God metes out rewards and punishments for one's actions. Hinduism, however, explains that it is all handled through the law of karma. I like to compare karma to computer software or a computer game. God has created a software program and installed it in the universe. The program contains all possible human actions and the corresponding fruits of action. So that gives him a lot of free time, right? He doesn't have to mete out rewards and punishments for every action we do. He just sets it up and then goes on doing something else. Very efficient. Our actions in past lives have created karmic fruits, some of which are to be experienced in this life. And this is a way I like to explain it. It's as though there's a big magnet inside of us that attracts these experiences to us, both positive and negative. So that's easy to imagine, right? You have a magnet inside you, and whatever happens, the people that come into your life, the events that come into your life, they didn't do it, you attracted it. So the cause is within you. Living a good dharmic life in the present is not sufficient to totally eliminate the negative karmic fruits created in past lives. I'll read that again, that's very important. Living a good dharmic life in the present is not sufficient to totally eliminate the negative karmic fruits created in past lives. No matter how good we are in the present, how generous we are, it doesn't get rid of negative karmas from the past fully. The next sentence explains a little further. The karmas still come. That's not always understood. Some people think, well, I'm really living a great life now. I'm very generous. Why should this happen? Well, it happens because you weren't living a good life and you weren't very generous in a past life. The article goes on to explain, however, the performance of selfless service, seva, can proactively soften the intensity of the karmas we are yet to experience. In other words, it doesn't get rid of the karma, the negative karma, but it makes it less negative. It comes in a less forceful way. We soften it. When we do not accept the rightness of a negative happening, we become disturbed and distracted. This takes up a lot of mental real estate. Accepting the happening as self-created, on the other hand, allows the disturbance and distraction to gradually fade away. So we don't need disturbances and distractions. They keep us agitated and makes it impossible really to meditate deeply. A common response to a negative event is to focus on those who are involved. It is human nature to be upset with them and possibly even plan to get back at them, to exact some form of revenge. Such responses clearly lead to additional mental anguish while simultaneously missing the main point, which is that we created the experience. And this is a helpful thought. You are destined to have this experience as a fruit of karma, your own self-created karma. If these individuals didn't treat you wrongly in this way, others would do so in the future. So you're destined to get mistreated by somebody. It's kind of silly to blame one person when it could just as well be another person. Somebody has to act it out and return the karma to you. Oh, that's kind of what the next slide says. Jumped ahead a bit. Karma, like gravity, is a never-failing principle. It cannot be entirely averted. Gurudeva spoke strongly against blaming others. Each time you blame another person for what has happened to you, or cast blame in any way, tell yourself, this is my karma which I was born to face. I did not come into a physical body just to blame others for what happens to me. I was not born to live in a state of ignorance created by an inability to face my karma. I came here to spiritually unfold, to accept the karmas of this and all my past lives, and to deal with them and handle them in a proper and a wonderful way. Not blaming others is the first step. To make the second step, erasing any hard feelings toward those who mistreated you, you can follow this high-minded advice from the Tirukkural. If you return kindness for injuries received and forget both, those who harmed you will be punished by their own shame. In other words, you're making them aware of a higher form of cultured life than they've thought about, and realizing that exists, they are ashamed of their low-minded actions. And moving on to a new point here. Being the recipient of a negative fruit of action offers the opportunity to learn from the experience. We are treated by others as we treated others in the past. If we swindled money from a business associate in the past, we will someday have that same experience, not immediately, but in time. The karma pala, what the youth might call comeuppance, forces us to experience what the victims of our actions felt when we mistreated them. Such a realization can be seriously upsetting and disruptive, motivating us to never swindle others again. In other words, the roles are reversed. Karma reverses our roles. Instead of our mistreating someone in a specific way, we end up getting mistreated in that way ourselves. So we learn what it feels like to receive that mistreatment. And of course, it's not very pleasant. So that motivates us not to cause others to go through that again. In this way, karma is our teacher. So that's the point. Karma is our teacher. It teaches us to better understand the consequences of our behavior and, if we are attentive, improve it. So it shows us what it feels like to receive the behavior, and because of that, hopefully we're sensitive enough to improve our behavior so we don't cause others to go through that again. Gurudeva spoke on the importance of learning from our experiences. The basic laws of life are so simple that many people don't heed them. Why? Generally because the opportunities afforded us to fail these tests are so plentiful that we generate very good reasons for not paying attention to our lessons. Shall we say it is normal to fail some of these tests? Yes. Isn't this like getting a failing grade on a report card in school, not passing some of the tests and having to take a course over again? And then Gurudeva's point, we must learn from our experiences or find ourselves repeating them again and again. Similar to repeating a course in school, it's a big waste of time to take a course 2, 3, 4, 5 times when you really have the ability just to take it once. So it speeds up our spiritual evolution if we can avoid repeating them. Related topic, another question that Hindus regularly ask me is, why is there so much violence in the world today? The most extreme form of this challenging question is, how can God exist if there is so much violence in the world? The Wikipedia page entitled List of Ongoing Armed Conflicts contains 60 active conflicts of large, medium, and small scale. I had no idea there were so many active conflicts going on in the world. You generally only hear of a few, but 60 active conflicts of large, medium, and small scale are happening today. The cause of these armed conflicts has nothing to do with God. It has everything to do with mankind. Well, that's the simplest way to look at the answer to the question, why is there so much violence in the world? Because men are creating it. God gave man free will, and if man wants to use his free will to create conflict, that's what happens. Unfortunately, there is still a significant amount of tribalism on the planet. Tribalism is defined as tribal consciousness and loyalty, especially exaltation of the tribe above other groups. In other words, individuals involved in conflict want their group's ways of belief, culture, language, etc., to be followed by others. There is a lack of tolerance for other ways of life. In contrast, many countries today are known for their sense of pluralism, defined as a state of society in which members of diverse ethnic, racial, religious, or social groups maintain and develop their traditional culture or special interest within the confines of a common civilization. So that's what we want more of. We want more pluralism, which is very tolerant of other ways of living, and less tribalism, which wants its way to dominate. My advice is to adopt the perspective that violence and warring conflicts have nothing to do with God. They arise from individuals holding a belief in tribalism. Holding this view can take away any mental disturbance caused by the high level of hurtfulness we see each day. Gurudeva taught, gain the perspective first that it is a wonderful world, that there is nothing wrong in the world at all. Oh, what does that mean? Well, it means getting from where we are to where we want to be. This is what we need to be doing to move from that position to the new position. It's not the ideal, but it's where humanity is. So it's not wrong. It's the natural way of getting from here to there. Two more key Hindu viewpoints can help us face life's difficulties. Hindus do not accept the concept that some individuals are evil and others are good. Hindus believe that each individual is a soul, a divine being that is inherently good. Of course, this doesn't mean we should make someone who's a hardened criminal our best friend. It's not saying that. It's saying we shouldn't condemn them and write them off as different than us. We're good and they're bad. Because even in a violent criminal, the violent criminal is inherently good. It's just that goodness is really, really well covered up. And hopefully, in a short period of lives, it'll come out and the criminal behavior will lessen. So we want to encourage that to happen. We don't want to write them off as somehow different. And we have second key, the whole world is one family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Nearly everyone in the world is family-oriented. The goal of most human effort is to benefit all members of our family. We want them to be happy, successful, and religiously fulfilled. When we define family as the whole world, we wish everyone in the world to be happy and fulfilled. So that's a good goal. In conclusion, negative events will continue to occur in our life as the fruits of our actions in this and prior lives are magnetized to us by the never-failing law of karma. But these events do not have to be a source of disturbance, distraction, doubt about God, and blaming of others. Rather, we can accept them as our own self-created karma, learning from life's difficulties to avoid repeating the cycle again. As for the world, we can accept what is happening as the working out of the remaining tribalism. As the mass consciousness gradually shifts toward a global pluralism, we can also be proactive in sharing our Hindu belief in the divinity of all people and the perspective that the whole world is a one family. Then we have the actual quote, Maha Upanishad, chapter 6, verse 72. Only small men discriminate, saying, one is a relative, the other is a stranger. For those who live magnanimously, the entire world constitutes but a family. Very good. That's our first part there. I'll close that up. And we're running a little ahead of time. That's good. Looking at Path to Shiva, lessons 27 through 32. And take a look here at 27. Oh, of course, this is basic material, and most of it you're probably very familiar with. And I'm not presenting it to just represent the basic material you're already familiar with, trying to point out some subtle points or points to emphasize that you may not have thought of. This is very helpful, teaching others, teaching your children, understanding the material, explaining it to someone else. All of those situations benefit from having a better understanding of these subtle points. Who is Lord Murugan? Murugan is the god of religion and yoga. He is the second son of Shiva, born of his divine mind. His electric power awakens spiritual wisdom to propel souls onward in their evolution to Shiva's feet. So the Shakti, the vibration that emanates from Lord Murugan, is quite different than that from Lord Ganesha. Lord Ganesha is very gentle. We're worshiping Lord Ganesha to put everything into a harmonious condition. We need to be in a harmonious condition before we experience, in a strong way at least, the electric power of Lord Murugan. Otherwise, it causes all the disturbances in our mind to intensify. So we don't want that. Ganesha we worship first, and when that's going well, then a serious worship of Lord Murugan is appropriate. And it awakens spiritual wisdom, propelling us onward, meaning our spiritual evolution will have sped up. That's what that means, going faster. I like this photo. Also known as Kartikeya, Kumara, Skanda, Shanmukhanatha, and Subramanya. He is worshipped not only by Hindus, but by Buddhists as well, in China, Japan, and other countries. So here you can see the Shanmukhanatha, six-faced Murugan, and the faces are all Japanese. So it shows that Lord Murugan is alive and well in Japanese Buddhism as well as in Hinduism. Majestically seated on the Montipora Chakra, this red-hued god blesses mankind and strengthens our will when we rise to higher consciousness through sadhana and yoga. So the Montipora Chakra is willpower, and when the willpower is of a spiritual nature, then it's helping us rise to higher consciousness through sadhana and yoga. When we use the will in an external way, we accomplish things in the world. So this is talking about how Lord Murugan can help us use the will to experience higher consciousness. He brings detachment, willpower, and contentment, and his blessings strengthen our meditations. Relates to meditation. Lord Murugan carries a veil or spear representing the power to overcome darkness and ignorance. He is the authority behind the king, nowadays any government which rules the people, there to see that justice is done and peace prevails. So the graphic, if it was the moving graphic, it would make more sense. You would see the king's scepter there, and then the veil gradually appears in front of it, meaning that Lord Murugan is working through the power or the scepter of the king. Murugan is especially loved by Tamil Saivites who believe he guides their culture and history. Devotees look to him for healing of the body and mind and for strength to face life's challenges. He is said to love bamboo groves and hilltops, and his vahana is the proud and beautiful peacock. When we connect with Murugan, we have to be ready to change, for he brings a dynamic energy, mentioned previously. He inspires penance, such as carrying kavadi during Thaipusam, which softens karmas and purifies the mind. For penance to work right, we need to do it in the right spirit. Sometimes, this is a massive event at Batu Cave. Sometimes it gets off track and the elders have to correct it. Off track, for example, is when the teenage boys are carrying kavadi for the purpose of impressing their girlfriends. They've got a really big kavadi. So it's not going to do them any spiritual benefit. Kavadi is a penance. Carrying kavadi is a penance, to be more precise, and works best when you have the mistake or mistakes you made clearly in mind. You're not just doing the penance for the sake of doing a penance. You have some mistakes that you regret doing, and you're asking for Lord Murugan's blessings to help you try not to do it again. You don't want to promise you'll never do it again, because you might. So that's could be too big a promise. You're going to try your best not to do it again. And then that's purifying, which softens karmas as well. When Murugan's blessings come into our life, we become a better person, more kind, disciplined, and spiritual. This is Arunagiri Nadar. Many saints and devotees have had visions of Murugan and other gods, but more often we just sense their presence as we feel the warm rays of the sun when our eyes are closed. Okay, we'll look through the questions and answers here. So Lord Murugan is God of religion and dancing, of course, religion and yoga. His electric power, incorrect answer, of course, is removes obstacles. That's the realm of Ganesha, and when we say removes obstacles, it can be better to say he's the Lord of obstacles, Ganesha, in that he both removes and places. So sometimes the placing of obstacles, because we're headed the wrong way, is overlooked, and we just think he's supposed to remove them. He can place them or remove them, whichever he chooses, Ganesha. His veil or spear represents the power to overcome darkness and ignorance. True. Devotees look to him for, incorrect answer. They don't look to him for wealth. He's more purely spiritual, strengthening spiritual willpower. Lord Murugan, check the incorrect answer. can never be experienced. So experience is, that's of course the false, incorrect answer. We want to emphasize that Hinduism is an experiential religion because many religions aren't. In those religions, you have to accept something on faith. In other words, to accept that it's true, but without the ability to experience it. Whereas in Hinduism, accepting something on faith is just the first step. And if you really work at it, you can eventually experience it. So we know a number of devotees who went on inner search in the past and had visions of Lord Murugan. So even within our small group, lots of experiences took place. Whoops, excuse me. Got off the page there. There we go. Bhakti. Lesson 28. What is bhakti? Bhakti is devotion or love felt toward God, gods, and Guru. I think that's a really good definition. Distinguishes it from normal love, which is toward another person. So normal love is good, but it's different than bhakti. So bhakti is that kind of love which you feel toward God, gods, and Guru. Different kind of love. Bhakti Yoga, the practice of expressing this love, is strong in most Hindu traditions. Nicely said. We express bhakti when we worship in our home shrine, attend the temple, or travel on pilgrimage. Those are the three ways Gurudeva stresses of worshiping: home shrine, local temple, and annual pilgrimage. The more we experience devotion, the more it grows within us. Just it's saying that simply the practice of Bhakti Yoga deepens our devotion. This occurs when we sing sacred songs and chant bhajans. Listening to stories of our great saints and Satgurus inspires bhakti. In Siva Bhakti Yoga is never outgrown. It is not just for beginners. As Gurudeva said, the yoga of pure devotion is found at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the path. This is an important point. In the Vedanta approach, many Vedantins favor what's called Jnana Yoga and look down on those who practice Bhakti Yoga and don't see Bhakti Yoga as something, they don't see devotion as a quality they need to be strong in. So that's one way Saiva Siddhanta is different. It's saying, no, we can't do that. We don't start by trying to become a Jnani. We start by being the servant of God. Said that another way. We start by being the devoted servant of God. So we have devotion and service. That's how we start, and we never give that up. That's the second point. Bhakti is not something that we outgrow. I'm a Jnani now. I'm a great yogi. I no longer need to have devotion for God. Saiva Siddhanta is not of that nature. By awakening this love and appreciation, we open ourselves to God's grace. Very important point. We need to experience God's grace. We need to be open. The opposite of open is closed. So the mudra for closed is this. Generally the hands are crossed a little lower, but then you can't see them. So sometimes I see that in the back of the temple. You see some of the men sitting there like that, and you get the sense that the wife has insisted they come and that they're looking forward as soon as they can to go home and watch football on television. They're kind of, because they have to. So they're not open. In fact, they're trying their hardest not to experience any grace at all. They're being as closed as possible. So open is the opposite. Open is prostrating, worshiping. So we need to become open by awakening love and appreciation. We don't start out open. We need to practice our devotional activities enough that we open ourselves, and when we're open, we receive God's grace. Very important. Devotion is a calm, intelligent expression of love for the deity. It is not unlike the closeness felt between good friends. Nice example. In other writings, Gurudeva says we're not trying to be emotional. As I said, it's not a lot of excitement we're trying to generate. Emotional love of God. If we get overly emotional, which is like an emotional high, we'll have an emotional low as a result. We went up emotionally, we'll go down emotionally. So we don't want that. We're trying for a calm, intelligent expression of love. Therefore, there's no drop off. It's just sustainable. Then we get the stages. Saiva Siddhanta, the path begins at the Charya stage with getting to know the gods and developing a relationship with them through service or karma yoga. So karma yoga is very important. And I think the temples, village temples, there used to be more opportunities to do karma yoga. In our modern temples and cities, there's less opportunities just to go there and be of service. So you can do certain things at home, such as make a garland and just take it to the temple. That counts as service. And I'm sure you could think of other things too you could do at home if the temple you go to doesn't really have many opportunities for service. Okay. Then bhakti is naturally experienced. This is the kriya stage. Our nature becomes soft, flexible, and content. It's good. Gurudeva explained, the inner knowing that all is Shiva's will is one of the first benefits of Bhakti Yoga. In other words, we have to accept what's happening, even if we wish it was happening another way. This is what's supposed to be, and I just have to adjust to it. If we don't adjust to what's happening, or think it's not Shiva's will, then that creates disturbance. A close, loving relationship with God and the gods gives us a great stability in life and allows for success in meditation. Problems or negative karmas arise, the devotee can place them at the feet of the deity to be dissolved. It's good. Yoga stage. When karmas are clear, the devotee is able to internalize his devotion into deeper meditations in the yoga stage. So that means when karmas are coming, particularly when we're reacting to them, negative karmas, causes disturbance, and if you try and internalize your devotion, you won't be successful. So we really need to keep things calm on the outside and accept what's happening. Oh, let's look through the questions. We express Bhakti Yoga when we. Incorrect answer, of course, is study the history of Hinduism. Studying history of a religion doesn't express Bhakti Yoga. Saiva Siddhanta, Bhakti Yoga is only for beginners. That's emphasizing the point we made. Of course, that's false. God's grace, check the correct answer, cannot be experienced, is experienced by awakening love and appreciation through Bhakti Yoga. So, of course, B is correct. When Bhakti is naturally experienced, our nature becomes, check the incorrect answer. So soft and flexible is correct. Discontent, of course, is incorrect. This is pointing out Bhakti helps us be a more contented person. Everyone wants to be more contented. Close, loving relationship with God and the gods gives us a great stability in life and allows for success in meditation. Absolutely true. So that's again, the Saiva Siddhanta approach is that meditation is an advanced practice. We need to do a lot of charya and kriya before we practice the yoga of meditation. And some people won't be able to. Their nature is such that they're always upset about something. So that charya and kriya is the best they can do until that tendency to get upset is harnessed. Chapter 29, who are the devas? Gurudeva wrote, religion is the bringing together of the three worlds. This means that the ascended masters, angels, devas, deities, saints, sages of each of the world's religions living without physical bodies in the inner worlds guide and govern, help and protect, shower forth blessings and inspiration to the members of their religious family. So the inner worlds are divided up on a religious basis. No competition, of course, but the inner plane beings of Hinduism only work with Hindus, likewise of the other religions. They're not trying to convert you. And nice diagram here. As a Saivite, you are part of a large and wonderful global family with members in all three worlds. So that's the point that we're trying to get across, is that every religion exists in three worlds. It's not just a physical world phenomena. There are beings in the inner worlds helping the beings in the physical world. So it's all three worlds working together. Gurudeva has that in one of the beliefs. Religion is a working together of the three worlds, and this is accomplished most perfectly for Hindus in the Hindu temple. So the Hindu temple is set up to bring the three worlds together. The devas are beings of light, souls living in the higher level of the second world, Antarloka, who assist God and the gods. One of their duties is to help answer the prayers of devotees. Another is to receive newcomers to the inner world, those who have died, helping them to adjust to their new life without a physical body. Each Hindu has special guardian devas. They are assigned shortly after birth at the name-giving ceremony, or later in life when one enters the great tribe known as the Hindu religion. Some devas are attached to individuals and families for many generations. Each family has numerous guardian devas who bless the home and keep the spiritual vibration strong. Some are drawn from nearby temples, attracted by the pujas performed in the home shrine. Still others are from far-off temples who return with the family after the yearly pilgrimage to help in many ways. If the family neglect their sadhana and pujas, however, the home loses its spiritual power and the devas begin to slowly drift away. Of course, excessive argument in the home will also do the same thing. The devas guard us and the home silently and are seldom seen, though their presence in our lives is quite obvious in the form of good happenings and harmony. Take a look at the questions. So first question, the families in B in all three worlds. The devas are, check the incorrect answer. Incorrect is B, souls living in the higher level of the third world. They're living in the higher level of the second world. They're not in the third world. To be in the third world, you have to not be scheduled for reincarnation. It's one of the requirements. So they're going to reincarnate. Guardian devas are assigned. Check the incorrect answer. To some but not all Hindus is the incorrect answer. Some devas are attached to individuals and families for many generations. Definitely true, and applies in certain specific situations more than in others. For example, you get a family of businessmen generation after generation, or a family of musicians generation after generation. They're tending to hold devas to help them in their specific occupation. Gurudeva mentioned in some of his writings that he had Daitaza and other devas from previous lives were helping him, so that's one reason he was able to accomplish so much. Had them from previous lives carry forward. Devas in the home, check the correct answer. Will begin to slowly drift away if the family neglects their sadhana and pujas or argues excessively. .30. What are the past 4 stages? When created by Lord Shiva, the soul is young and immature. Its process of growing up over many lifetimes happens in 4 stages. This is much like the development of a lotus flower. First, it sends its roots into the pond's mud. There's no pictures of sending roots into the pond's mud available anywhere, so this is the best I could do. First, it sends its roots into the pond's mud, then it grows a stem and leaves that reach the water's surface. Finally, it blossoms, lots of blossoming pictures. Finally, it blossoms in the full sun. Yet each previous stage of growth is still there, supporting the flower. So we still have the roots, the stem, and the leaves didn't go away just because the flower is blossoming. They're all supporting it. Shiva's grace guides this process so that we learn and grow toward the light through experience. Under the divine law of karma, as the soul progresses through each stage, it becomes less instinctive and more spiritual. Shiva is continually creating souls, so at any point in time, there are on the earth young souls, adolescent souls, middle-aged souls, and old souls. And we get the graphic here. The 4 padas, stages of maturation, are Charya, Kriya, Yoga, and Jnana. Those are the Sanskrit terms. Charya is good conduct and humble service, attending the temple and helping with temple chores. Here the main work is harnessing the instincts and developing virtuous qualities. And it's also that something young people can do. Doesn't require being 12 years old or 18 years old. Kriya is the stage of devotion or love of God expressed through home puja and temple worship. Yoga is the period of meditation and inner striving under a guru's guidance. At this stage, the temple is a sacred space for contemplation as Shiva's veiling power gives way to his revealing grace. Jnana is the wisdom state. In all traditions, jnana means wisdom. Exactly what type of wisdom is where they vary. Jnana is the wisdom state where the realized soul sees himself as one with the temple deity. So this is the wisdom of Advaita, monism. These stages are also experienced in each lifetime. As children, we learn good conduct as summarized in the yamas and niyamas. Then we are taught worship, expressing heart-melting devotion for God, gods, and Guru. Next, we may learn to meditate with the goal of gaining true wisdom. For padas are not alternate ways, but progressive steps on a one path called sanmarga. Nor does the soul give up the practices of one pada when it enters the next. Thus, the mature soul in jnana is a paragon of wisdom, yoga, devotion, and virtue. So those are English terms for jnana, yoga, kriya, and charya. So it's backwards. The greatest yogis still love and worship Shiva. Questions? Oh, the lotus flower, that one's easy. As the soul progresses through each stage, it becomes less spiritual and more instinctive. Of course, untrue. This is defining, making sure that someone understands Charya, Kriya, Yoga, and Jnana. So you can see it's on 2 slides. We're supposed to match period of meditation and inner striving under a guru's guidance. That's clearly yoga. Good conduct and humble service, attending the temple and helping with temple chores. It's a really good full definition of charya. The wisdom state, where the realized soul sees himself as one with the temple deity, obviously jnana. Stage of devotion expressed through home puja and temple worship, kriya. 4 padas are not alternate ways, but progressive steps on a one path called sanmarga. This is very important because of the widely known concept of the 4 yogas, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, and jnana yoga, are the Hindu practices, is the most common way Hindu practices are described. And one of the qualities of that approach is they're alternate ways. You can just choose karma yoga, you can just choose one of them, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, jnana yoga, and focus on that without doing the others. In other words, there's no need to provide service and devotion. You can skip those. The image in one of my keynotes is the 4 yogas are like you have a stream and then there's 4 rock paths across the stream. Any path you can take and get to the other side, which is liberation. Whereas Siddhanta, there's one path with 4 rocks, which is what we saw in the graphic here, called Charya, Kriya, Yoga, and Jnana. You have to go first Charya, first Kriya, next Kriya, then Yoga, then Jnana to get across. So there's only one path with 4 stones. That's a simple way of explaining it. Soul gives up the practices of one pada when it enters the next. Again, in the 4 yogas, you might do that, but not in Siddhanta. What is karma? There are a few points here we didn't talk about in the first handling coping with negative events. So this is still good, even though there's slight repetition. But we will skip the questions. Kind of look for what's different. What is karma? God Shiva creates the cosmos and he resides within it. His many special laws or systems are at work within our complex universe. The law that causes an object to fall to the earth we call gravity. The law that governs the reaction of thoughts, words, and deeds we call karma. It is an automatic system of divine justice. By this law, what we sow, we will reap. Another way of saying what we said above about a computer program. Actions and the fruit of action are both called karma. We went through that point. Next one we didn't do. There are three kinds of karma. The karma of all deeds done in our past lives, the karmas we bring into this birth to experience, and the karmas we are making by our actions now. So the simplest way of looking at it is we have this sum total of karma. A portion of it is coming out to be experienced. And if we don't react to it, we don't retaliate, if we handle it well, then it goes away. So this becomes less. If we retaliate, can't accept it, so forth, we create a new karma, which comes back in a slightly modified form. So the total number of karmas is the same. It didn't go down. And then our actions in this life add new karmas, hopefully a lot of good ones. So the sum total keeps changing based upon what comes out from the past and what goes in the present. So there's Sanskrit names, but those aren't brought up here. We try and minimize the Sanskrit terms in Path to Shiva. Good, helpful thoughts, words, and deeds bring good karma to us in the future. Hurtful actions bring back to us painful karma. Doing bad is like planting poison ivy. If you don't have poison ivy in your country, that's something if you touch in the wild, you get a big rash and it itches. Doing good is like planting delicious mangoes. We all have mangoes. Understanding the law of karma gives us the power to act wisely and create a positive future. And Gurudeva emphasizes that in his quote. You are the writer of your own destiny, the master of your ship through life. He meant that karma is not fate, it can be overcome. Fate is something you can't change at all. So karma is changeable by how we act in the present. We lessen negative karmas. We can even eliminate them through tapas, which we're not explaining in today's presentation. They can actually be eliminated. And how we act in the present is up to us, and that's creating our future. So there's a lot of leeway. Karma, in no sense, is an unchangeable fate. And the word we talked about before at the beginning is karma is the teacher. Teaches us to refine our behavior. That's basically what it's teaching us. Becoming a more refined person. No matter how well we understand karma, meaning intellectually, facing it bravely is still a challenge. We tend to get upset. Our ego gets in the way, our emotions are stirred, and we react without thinking. So that's what we have to lessen. We can't, of course, 100% eliminate that just because we want to, but we should be able to lessen those types of reactions over time, and eventually, with work, get rid of it altogether. And this gives a suggestion. Such weakness can be overcome by perfecting our character according to the yamas and niyamas. Effects of karma can be softened in several ways. We've talked about some of them, but not all. By accepting and not reacting. Primary one. If you don't accept and you react, you're creating a new karma. By doing penance. By performing good deeds that balance out the not so good we have done, by seeking the grace of God and Guru. So we didn't really talk about grace, but that's can lessen karma or eliminate karma if it's strong grace. Excuse me, I jump forward. Karma applies not only to individuals, but to groups, communities, and nations. So since we covered karma twice, we'll skip the questions. Oops. I went big there. Hit something I shouldn't have. See if I can fix this. Pretty lopsided there. I'll try to fix it a little better. There we go. That's about what it was. And our last one. Should be able to finish up here in 5 minutes. What is Dharma? When God creates the universe, she endows it with the laws to govern creation. Dharma is that divine law. So that's one definition of Dharma, divine law. Prevailing on every level of existence, from the sustaining cosmic order to religious and moral laws that bind us in harmony with that order. It is goodness, ethical practice, and duty. It is the path which leads us to liberation. So since it has so many meanings, sometimes you have to have another word there modifying it. Human Dharma, social Dharma, Swadharma. Then it's clear what you're talking about because it's very broad. For graphic, Dharma is at work on 4 levels of our existence: universal, human, social, and personal. So these are important that someone understands. There's Sanskrit terms for each, but they're not being used here. Universal Dharma rules the natural world from subatomic quantums to galactic clusters. That's basically how nature works. Social Dharma governs society. That's how all the different occupations fit together. Human Dharma guides life's 4 stages. That's dividing life up into the 4 ashramas, 1 through 24, 24 through 48, etc. As our duties change seriously in each asrama. And then personal Dharma, as we know, Swadharma, is your own perfect pattern in life. It is determined by your past karmas and how the other 3 dharmas impact you. And of course, one of Gurudeva's beautiful teachings is that through the worship of Lord Ganesha, he knows our past lives and can clarify our right path in this life. When we follow this unique pattern guided by Guru, wise elders, and the knowing voice of our soul, we are content and at peace with ourselves and the world. So content and at peace is how we're supposed to be because we're in our Swadharma, and that can be hard. There's so many choices these days as to what young adults can pursue in life. As a youth, a big part of your Dharma is to be a good student and a good daughter or son. That's how we start out. Brahmacharya ashrama. It is your parents' Dharma to care for you. It is your teacher's Dharma to teach you. It is the Dharma of the police to protect you. As an adult, you may become a parent, and it will then be your Dharma to raise and support your family. Later, as an elder, your Dharma will be to guide the younger generations. Yoga Swami said that Dharma is like the tracks of a train, and like the train, we must stay on the tracks to reach our destination. Hinduism is the Sanatana Dharma, eternal path. So I'll just make a few comments. We don't need to do the questions. They're pretty simple. One of the reasons the presentation is structured as it is I was working with a group of university students, Hindu Students Association in Texas. We were talking about Dharma, and I made the comment, your Dharma changes according to your age. No one knew what that meant. They hadn't been taught that their duties in life aren't the same. If you're 5 years old or 100 years old, 50 years old, your duties in life are not the same. They change dramatically according to your age. So that's one of the reasons I've been stressing this point in various presentations, is it's not well understood. You start out as a student, very different duties. Then you get married and you're raising kids, again, different duties. So understanding what your duties are in life based upon your situation, which is your age, your occupation, your country, how your occupation relates to other occupations, all of that determines the nature of the Dharma you should be following. That's the point, and it's constantly changing. So thank you very much for listening. Next webinar is about 2 months from now. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Om Namah Shivaya.